I think we're ready to pressure test our freshwater system. We've got the deck fill installed, we've got the cockpit shower installed, we've got the water tanks installed, and the hot water tank installed, and the freshwater pump and everything in between installed. And theoretically, anything that's not installed is capped off. So where like the galley sink is going to be, the head sink is going to be, those are capped off. So we've never pressure tested any of this before. So if nothing leaks, it would be an absolute miracle. We're going to start by hooking up the hose and filling up our water tanks. And then once there's some water in our water tanks, we'll be able to switch on the 12-volt freshwater pump and start to suck water out of said water tanks. And the only fixture that we have that works is the cockpit shower, which is also the furthest away. So hopefully we'll be able to bleed all the air out of the system and check for leaks. That's what should happen. I have no idea if that's what's actually going to happen or not. First things first, we're going to hook the hose up and try to get water into our tanks. Put this in here. That's in. All right, engage. If I flip this valve over, it should start going through the filter. I don't hear any spraying yet. Now I need to go open up the valves in the head and start putting water in the tanks. The cool part about our system is from that system there all the way to the head is one continuous piece of PEX. So that part we don't really have to worry about looking for leaks because there's no fittings to leak. Okay. So now if I turn these valves, water should start flowing into our port tank. And now I'm going to open the starter tank. But a lot of this line still doesn't have water in it because it's still like backflowing through everything else. But so in the cockpit we've got a bunch of plumbing and fittings, and then they come through this bulkhead back here, and then down underneath the sink is where we have shutoffs for the cockpit shower and everything. So if we're ever in a place where it's super cold, we can actually shut off anything that's outside of the boat so it doesn't freeze. This is also where the sink is going to get hooked up, the galley sink, when we're done. And then from here, it's a continuous run of hot and cold and salt all the way to the head. So there's no fittings in the bilge, there's nowhere to leak. Everything that's behind where the fridge and freezer and stove are going to be, it's just solid pipe. So far so good, we haven't found any leaks, but there's still air in the system for sure. We still have to fill up the hot water tank and kind of like purge all the air out of the rest of the system and then pressure test it. But so far I don't see any drips, which is surprising. So far the only thing that's leaking is the connection of our actual shitty garden hose. Water tanks are a third or so full, which is plenty enough to do our testing. So I'm going to disconnect the hose from out here, and then we're going to turn the 12-volt pump on and try to get all the water back out of the tanks. Now that we have water in our tanks, I'm going to pin this down, and then we're going to turn the 12-volt pump on and try to get the rest of the air out of the system. Now I can open up the outlets of each of the tanks. I can open this up, which is from the pump. And now if I turn the pump on, it should start sucking water.
Shouldn't the tanks be closed?
It's going to be loud.
It's so loud.
Is there water coming out?
Yep.
So all the way cold, maybe. Short circuit? Where?
Well, I think we're running into a bit of a issue. The pump keeps tripping the breaker. And then 2, the pump is much louder than I thought it would be. And that's gonna be a problem if it's this loud.
Surprise! It was much quieter when we did our test with it outside. I don't know if it's like, I don't know why it's so loud. I'll have to figure it out.
Yeah. It would run like whenever we use anything that uses the water.
Yeah. The only leak I found was like one of the fittings on the hot water tank that I don't actually remember if I just like threaded it on temporarily so I didn't lose it, or if I actually like sealed it. But that's the only leak I found. But I have to figure out something with the pump. I don't know if it's like pushing air or what, but it's loud. And it's tripping our power supplies too. It should be drawing more power than the... Maybe I'll run a feed off the battery. Load, line, matter, anything positive. I think maybe part of the issue is that the power supply that we have for some reason isn't working with that pump, or it doesn't like to start up, or something's not working with that power supply. So I'm going to give it all the juice at once off of our 12-volt battery, but I still put a breaker in, you know, safety first. And now when we turn on the BMS, that'll have power. That's positive. That's negative, and we'll be able to see how much power it's pulling. It's probably the jankiest thing I've ever done on this boat, but we're not ready to start wiring stuff yet. If I turn on the BMS, the cockpit shower still on?
Yeah. Is that normal?
And now nothing. This has no air pressure in it at all. Bring up something to like let air out.
So I think to really understand how loud this thing is, we're gonna do a bit of an audio test. I'm gonna start at the head and work my way around the boat just to see the difference in the level of the noise in each space of the boat. And while we're doing this, I'm going to talk about the paid partner of this week's video, BetterHelp. So,
Ready?
Let's get started. All right, and the head is pretty loud, but BetterHelp is an online platform that helps make starting therapy so much easier, especially when the world around you is this loud. The last thing you want is to let the unnecessary noise affect your well-being. So we are an average of, I would say, 80 dB. When you sign up with BetterHelp, you first insert a few questions to help you match with one of their many therapists that they have on the platform. And then within just a few days, you get connected. And then from there, you can chat via video message or text message at any point that's convenient to you, anywhere in the world that's convenient to you, and also at your own pace. And if you feel like the therapist that you're matched with isn't the right fit, it's so easy to switch at no additional cost until you find somebody that you truly connect with. And here, a little quieter. All right, last spot to test. If you do want to try it out, make sure you visit betterhelp.com/SailingUma, or you can use the code SailingUma to save 10% off your first month of therapy. And on that note, I think we're done with our test. And let's go back inside.
All right, so successful test.
Somewhat.
Well, it's a successful test because we found 3 issues. 2 are going to be easy to fix. One's going to be a little bit trickier. One of the issues, well, we found 2 leaks. One in the junction up here is leaking, and I can see that I put sealant tape on it, but maybe I just need to tighten it up a little bit. The second one's at the hot water tank, but I don't honestly remember if I actually put anything sealant on that. I think I just maybe threaded the fitting on just so that I didn't lose it. But anyway, those 2 leaks are going to be easy enough to fix. Surprisingly, nothing else leaked, which is cool. But the biggest one is that the pump's still really loud. I think I do need to isolate it. I was hoping that I was going to be able to keep it all clean and plumbed in with just the PEX fittings, but the way we had our pumps mounted before, I think there was enough PEX attached to it that it wasn't an issue with the noise, but with these hard elbows and stuff, it's definitely passing a lot of that pump noise through to the bulkhead, which is causing a lot of vibration, which is making it noisy. So I'm gonna have to isolate that better, which is gonna be like a little bit trickier to fix, but the fact that nothing else leaked, I think is pretty good. So we've got a little bit more work to do, and then we'll do another test later. Successful test because we found things that need to be fixed. What is it? It's not a smoke test. I guess it's a leak test. Pressure test, drip test, drip test.
Drip test.
It's a drip test. We found 2 drips and some noise that we need to fix. There's something also weird with the accumulator tank. I need to reread the instructions on that. I thought I had it kind of understood, but I've never used one before. And getting the pressure set properly on that tank and only having this like really old bike pump, I don't think is the best idea. So I think we might need something a bit more accurate, and then they're gonna have to fiddle around with like where the pump pressure shuts off in relation to like the pressure that's in that accumulator tank. They need to be balanced so that they work well together. That I think currently is what's causing our downstream pressure issues. So I'll need to reread up that. So we kind of have 4 issues, but 3 of them are in the same place. So that's going to be easy. I'm going to start with fixing the hot water tank because that's going to be the easiest one to fix. Then I'll come and work on this later. It's just a bit of a bummer. I was really hoping that it wasn't going to be that loud. Like we did bench test the pump and it was quiet, but then just in here with all of like a little bit of vibration in here, just
It goes a long way.
Turns into, it's a bass drum. It definitely like reverberates more in here than I thought it would. So I'm gonna have to do a little bit more audio engineering on that pump. So yeah, got some work cut out for me. I like that 3 of the issues are all in the same, they're all there. So that's not too bad. All right, as it turns out, the leak was coming from the overpressure valve, because when I took it apart to clean it, I never put back on any thread sealant. So that's the only proper oopsies of the whole install. So I think that's pretty good. So yeah, put some thread tape on that, tighten it back up again, and it should be just fine. That ought to solve the leak. Ooh, it looks like we got anamorphics going on. Look at that. I'm defeated. I tried rearranging the pump in the accumulator tank and adding a little bit of like flexible hose in between it. And I thought that was going to be a good idea. And then when I flicked the pump back on, it was just as loud as before. I saw 86 decibels this time around. And so I sat here for a while, scratching my head, and decided to just do like best case scenario. I added almost 1.5 meters of hose, flexible hose, in and out of the pump, and set the pump down here on the foam mat just to turn it on and try to see how quiet it could possibly be. Because this is a Jabsco Parmex. We had one on the boat before. Actually, we had 3 on the boat before. And they were the 4 diaphragm ones, and they definitely were quieter than this. This is a 5 diaphragm one. It's supposed to be even quieter than the 4, but it's just loud. And so when I moved it down here onto the floor, it's definitely quieter. A lot of the noise is just coming from the fact that it's centrally located on like an echo chamber node. I'm not an audio engineer, but that bulkhead right there, when it gets vibrated, just echoes throughout the whole boat and makes it so much louder. So unfortunately, what we noticed is when this is sitting on the bulkhead, turns it into like the inside of a drum. And even on like this bulkhead is the same thing. And then even like down in here, 80 decibels is freaking loud for a water pump. Flushing the toilet and for fresh water where we're using it to brush our teeth in the middle of the night and like wash your hands and shower and all that, this is just too loud, which is kind of unfortunate because I thought this was going to be a good pump. We really like that position for the pump to be mounted because it's good for maintenance, it's good for checking the filter, like everything about it's good, and all of our plumbing works there. So we can't really go and hide this pump in some corner, in some place that's not going to vibrate quite as much on the boat. So I think the solution is going to be to get a few other pumps and do some experiments on how loud they are, and maybe not go with a diaphragm pump because they just have like pistons that go up and down to create suction. So they're generally noisier than impeller pumps. So we've got some experiment to do, we've got some testing to do, we've got some researching to do, and see if we can't find a high quality pump that's also quieter. So maybe if you guys have any ideas, let us know if you have a pump on your boat that's quiet, or if you had one that sucks, or if you have one that's great, because there's a lot of marketing BS around pumps. What we don't want is one that's going to be loud, and definitely not one that's going to be like reverberating throughout the whole boat every time we turn a faucet on. We're going to have to call that here. It was a good test of the system though. We found all the leaks, and we're going to be fixing these ones when we decide what pump we're going to use. And I fixed the one in the hot water tank already. So overall, it was a good system test. And it was just weird that this pump is that loud on that specific part of that bulkhead, I think is the conclusion. So...